Teams do want to do. They come up against Team Falcon. Are they ready for it? Z-o-o puts Henchman down. Kinda is going to eliminate him. And are the other two... Oh, wait, sorry.
They're not even around.
The other members? Where you at, guys?
They were split up because it looked like they were maybe trying to find an opportunity to get a res.
Perhaps. And maybe a little bit too worried about, running into another duo. And yeah, maybe Z-o-o just said, hey, I can grab one quick KP. Doesn't matter if I go down because you're going to get the res anyway. Either way, man, they're doing it. They're doing it the hard way.
They had the
Every
replicator.
game.
They had the
Game after
replicator and the
game.
harvester. They can't catch a break in this case. And with this res coming in, RERUN and Hungry will be able to see it in the distance, but you want to prioritize trying to get into that next zone, playing by the edge of the zone, because if you don't, while you have taken your time to move forward into Lava Siphon to get that KP originally from Falcons, Liquid Alienware are going to be waiting for you once you're forced to exit out into that next zone.
The other question is, like, what were they doing there? I mean, it'd be interesting to see how this happened. They started off in Lava Fissure, and then we see them down at Harvester Lava Siphon before the zone pulled back up to Overlook. So maybe just going for as much Evo as they can possibly juice out of the map before making their way in. Yeah, look, whatever they're doing this series, it is not working so far.
Let's see what they're going to do as they make their way into that next zone as Aurora, our #1 squad in this lobby thus far, are playing off the rocks over to the north side of Overlook. And they're not the only ones too, right? GHS are also within the vicinity. E36 are still holding a lot of space, both to the north and south side too of Overlook, also denying any information for any squads that may want to go to the ring console or survey beacon over to the right side of those buildings of Overlook.
It's trying to scare off Envy right now. Two looking their way, one watching south. Make sure no one disturbs them from Fragment. The zone pulls upward, around the train tracks, around those rocks that are northwest of Overlook. This means Aurora is in a fantastic spot. This means Alliance and Envy will probably be fighting over one of the better spots coming into this final circle. GHS, Professional, it's a little too south for them, unfortunately. They will have to make a move next, but could be okay. But Aurora really sitting on the throne right now. Like they need another win in this series.
All right, it's about making a statement, elevating themselves and carrying that momentum like I mentioned once again. We also got to see that nice little camera overview of Team Burger having access to that Mythic bin, uncontested from any squads that have rotated in this direction of the zone so far. But in No Name, where there is a survey for any squads that are able to get that scan here, they're going to be looking at Team Burger, who will eventually have to move into that next zone. They have time. You have less than 35 seconds now. And Team Falcons, after getting the recovery from Waltzy to get that res, are finally able to move in, and they are right behind RERUN and Hungry.
RERUN and Hungry, they don't hold the choke. And as a result, they let Team Falcons back in with a chance. One of the good things about running two supports and one controllable legend is you can shuffle the the small meds around to you, or your support characters, give the med kits over to Waltzy, and it's not too hard to tank a bit of zone damage on the way in. All right, they're coming up against RERUN and Hungry now. Let's have a listen and see how they approach this fight.
Fucking rough.
I'm looking left.
I'm at
Fragment.
You good, Hal?
Yeah, I'm fine.
How does something happen? Frag was really big, if not wrong. Team build, not Team Caravan. Team Park Caravan. Our rotate is so fucked.
I'm just getting spammed. I'm selling.
Finish off Overlook platform. Our rotate is fucked, bro.
Are they still in
Cool.
here? I think they are, right?
Going back to you guys.
Yeah, it's hard pulled.
Are they in there?
Batting. I don't know, there's a chance that they're
have to
batting.
be.
There's a team up the hill here.
We gotta get 3 KP, like 10th something.
Come on, I'm popping about. I'm the white meds.
Uh-huh. 3 ranges. I'll bet
2
the
ranges.
caravan, I'm gonna just stop moving. Yeah, just jump in the caravan.
Okay.
Coming.
Still a team in cart. They're sitting on the fence. Play outside.
Man, the deep breathing, feeling a little bit deflated here on what to do next. There's not a lot of options. You heard it from their comms. The rotate isn't in the best position, and they're getting spammed. When you have Gaming Gladiators in one of the buildings, having the Sheila also poking at you with all the G7s between Gaming and even Orgless and Hungry.
Yeah, they know they're pretty much done for. I mean, you look at how this game's going to play out. There is a ridiculous amount of open ground that they would have to cover to make this next zone in, 30 seconds plus the ring closing time.
And no meds.
And yeah, not many meds, right? They've just had to use a lot of them throughout the zone. And at this point, trying to get into this, they're going to get ratted by Orgless and Hungry. And I can tell you right now, Vicky, this is literally their most hated thing in the entire game. It's been happening all throughout scrims. It's one of Batafe's favorite strats, and it will drive a knife into the heart of Falcons.
It's tilting because Orgless and Hungry also made that rotate into that next building when Falcons were inside of the caravan, thinking that Orgless and Hungry were still in the south side building without having to rotate since they were so focused on Gaming Gladiators. That's it for Falcons this time around. Furia are able to make their rotate. Incredibly low, having to use some of these meds, but they are able to get around the other side of this rock before this dome goes down. They utilize a Newcastle wall, and everyone now is trying to get into that next zone.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see if Orgless and Hungry can do it, because that's often the criticism levied at that rat players. Yeah, sure, you do get the 3 KP, but what's your next move, guys? Was that really worth it? Let's see.
Especially when you're getting absolutely burned by the Sheila in the middle of your rotate here too. You can't even poke for a second. Look at this. And now diving in. Liquid in a lot of trouble. Nuzul incredibly low. Kurip cannot clutch it out. Liquid Alienware get eliminated, and Gaming Gladiators now maybe joining them back to the lobby.
Wow, okay. Kinda actually grabbing some of those kills while Reignite does on the other side. Orgless and Hungry go down next. I mean, yeah, honestly, I'm not sure what options they had. They were barely any better than Falcons.
And you know what team is just looking at all this action from afar while being in that next zone? Aurora, nice shots here as Alliance, though, fight for their lives from outside zone. The massive shots. Effect stuck on the other side. He manages to survive. Quick shield swap here, too, after getting that KP.
Oh, massive. I mean, we were talking about how Alliance and Envy were coexisting, or maybe not coexisting, but, they were neighbors for quite some time coming into this zone. And it was a close fight there, but Alliance do pull it out, and now they have this great spot on the top. Hopefully they can use that to rotate north up and around Aurora.
Spamming that ping. Keon just making sure everybody has eyes on the team right in front of them. Reignite too, right alongside them, as well as Go Next. Split just a little bit here. While E36 are focusing on their fight against Stallions on the outskirts of Overlook, GHS stuck in a building. A lot of these split teams here before they start transitioning into that next zone, but I'm looking at Alliance versus Aurora as they're creeping up from the low ground.
Okay, Alliance have made their way around from the north like we said they should, and that's going to keep them in a nice, comfy spot for quite some time as they push up to 51 points, creeping up on Aurora 6 points ahead of them now.
It's the Aurora handshake with Alliance as they're sharing some of that space, and Aurora being on high ground cannot look at Alliance. E36 get eliminated. So many of these teams are collapsing, while Furia are just trying to find an opportunity to move into that next zone together with the Valkyrie ult.
Okay, this is a good place to have that Skyward Dive available to you. And you can see Furia even getting some angles coming down on Alliance there. Do they want to crest the top of this hill and take some more shots? Maybe try and even push Aurora off their high ground, because they've got to worry about GHS Professional behind them as well. If they find the timing, they could create some sandwich pressure here.
That's a very good point, and I also saw an ultimate accelerator at their feet for GHS to work with in case that they need to expend any necessary utility here while looking at Aurora, but they also cannot ignore Go Next that will be approaching from their left side from the low ground here if they could find an opportunity to move up.
Alliance have really just got to hope teams up the top are too worried about each other to peek downwards. Go Next playing from the bottom, kind of in the same spot, just even further on the low ground. Are they in the tunnel right now? It's a bit hard to tell with, I can see there's just a glimpse of an X-ray down the bottom there. I think they might be on that ultimate low ground, so it'll be interesting to see if there's any opportunity for them to come up top. But really, this is going to be fascinating to see how these teams actually try and play this out, especially when you think there are ways to get out of cover. You know, we are in a shield meta where you do have options to try and just create a little pocket for yourself.
But the team that's directly in the middle of this zone that doesn't have to inch forward first is Aurora. They've been here from what feels like the very beginning, avoiding a lot of the chaos here, while now forced to engage as Furia dropping down from the high ground. They know that they want to obtain the KP that they need, expending on the Gibby Dome. The other Gibby Dome also utilized from GHS and go next now. Coming in while Alliance is going to collapse on them. They heard GHS take the fight versus Aurora, and they need to finish this fight fast if Alliance want to take this dub.
Absolutely, they've got to be worried about these teams above them peeking down and getting any more kills, but at the moment they're not. Alliance are just running away with this scot-free to grab the KP. Meanwhile, Aurora turn around, they go for GHS. This could come down to the two EU teams again.
Now this is the green light for Alliance to go into this fight to third-party GHS versus Aurora. Amazing timing, and now here they are to clean up what is left. Furia still have a rat though alive.
Yeah, the one member of Furia actually survives to second. The Valkyrie doesn't matter. They do secure the 9 placement points, while Alliance turn it around on Aurora for the win in Game 5.
That was huge from Hockey's call right there. Knowing the timing, they have to take the GHS fight versus Furia, right? They said, okay, it's gonna end faster because we're gonna 3P this. Furia managed to see the situation and said, oh, we want nothing to do with it. We need to survive. If we were intentionally going to play for third or second in that case, we need to back away so that we can at least get the placement points. Then for Alliance to immediately split that attention as quickly as they did to focus on the 3P on Aurora and VHS was impeccable.
Yeah, I mean, if the plan truly in Hackus' head was that we have to start our fight first, because that means we can get onto the other two squads, then look, that's just an absolute masterstroke. I mean, yeah, it just gave them the opportunity to get into that third party first. And look, if Aurora had been able to, I don't know, just stall out GHS first and then get some shots down on Alliance, it could have been completely different. But no, it's our one-time LAN winners from this year already saying, we're looking good, and oh my god, I think they've actually snuck ahead of Aurora as well. This had, man, again, shout out to Graceful saying it was like the 1-2 EU combo this entire series, and it's just getting more and more so.
As Graceful would say, it is indeed, and EU stays on top here with Alliance taking a dub. 9 KP to their name after that game. Furia, their intention at the end didn't even seem like they wanted to play for a second. They wanted to get the KP at the very least if they could. The second place though, when they were able to disengage, was the biggest perk here. Getting that placement points even with that 3 KP they were able to secure.
Yeah, it was a great play by the Valkyrie to sneak in those extra few points. GHS Professional picking up 9, which is nice for them. Dreamfire still struggling. Couple down the bottom there. LG with that early fight against GHS Professional. Didn't see that one coming. And, you know, I think this is why some of those, you know, top IGLs, they like to play as many games as possible. And they're really, you know, they are committed to the scrims. LG, I actually don't think was one of those because, yeah, you want to see all the different circles. You know, there's so many different zones. And, you know, let's say there's, even if you were giving each POI a zone, right, 20 different end zones, the teams around you will play it 20 different ways. And if you've been through all those permutations, you've seen the one where GHS Professional decide, hey, we don't have ring console this time, we're going to go to North and take a fight. And if you're not ready for that at LAN, when it matters most, boom, you go down with a 0-point game. That's gutting.
Also opting for them to take that fight versus LG versus knowing that Aurora's landing in survey and not taking a fight over there instead to get information was even bigger for them, right? So they were able to get that KP after feeling confident, able to get that information to still position themselves in a way better spot versus a lot of the other teams that had to forcibly come from their own southern POIs.
And we look at our heavy hitters for this match. It's Effect pulling out 6 kills. And he is very much on top of the kill leaderboard for this entire series. He's pulled out 18 so far, Mickey. Nuts. Kazakh with 2,400 damage almost is also very, very good numbers from a player who's had an awesome year. You know, this year 4 of Apex, obviously now that we're into 2025, going to make that distinction. But yeah, it's been a nice real up-and-coming year for our Aurora player.
It's crazy to also see that you were highlighting Effect, right? He's got 7.5k damage on the board. Talk about insane here after those 5 games alone, but also insane to see that Alliance is a 1-point difference away from Aurora to take that #1 spot, and we still have another game to go.
He's just such an aggressive player. Like, he does not shy away from a fight, and yeah, he's just always on a hair trigger, and it's so scary to play against for the other teams. It's like anytime you're up against Alliance, you know, yeah, he will just jump at you. You'll be like, you know, there's none of this like, oh, we're facing off against each other behind the bubbles. It's just like, nah, he's in there immediately with a shotgun in your face.
It's beautiful, especially when Hawkins is the conductor of this squad, and we still have more action to go. Don't go anywhere, guys. We got some more action here. Game number 6, our final game in the series, coming to you on the other side of this break.
Fighting. This
Can we
still
step
fighting.
right?
I'm on height, I'm on height. Can you climb
Wait,
back
this
to
is
me?
solo somewhere, guys. This is solo somewhere.
No, only
Yes,
focus.
solo
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
solo me somewhere.
Okay. I'm on height, they're fighting!
I'm coming. Come. Yeah, look at us. Go.
Last one!
Yeah.
Dead.
Nice, let's go solo,
Guys, congratulations.
Nice.
On me.
On me.
Let me get a kill. No,
I'm
fuck
taking
you!
it.
Fuck you.
I'm taking it, man. Nice. Remember, no touching.
Alliance, let me get a kill. Gotta just slide that in there real quick. I mean, we already know we're gonna win, but I just need to add it to the stat board.
Yeah, look, I take it all back. Effect deserved none of those kills. He has been asking for his teammates to donate kills to him. Come on, mate. We all know you're good enough to get them yourself. You don't need any extras. Like,
This is a little cherry on top after taking that dub, right? Feeling themselves, feeling happy, especially with their awareness, knowing that there was still a solo somewhere.
well,
behind
someone's
them.
awareness. I mean,
Yeah,
Hackers knew it. Someone else was disagreeing with him there, but you always got to listen to your IGL.
And Alkis knows best, especially when it comes to working together with Unlucky and Effect, really enabling them to highlight those strengths. It was inevitable. I was talking about consistently 5th place right after the first 3 games. Then after that, it started ramping up from Stormpoint into World's Edge until eventually getting that dub for game number 5. And we still have another game to go here on the same map.
That's right, one more for World's Edge. Aurora looking amazing. They picked that spot. And unfortunately, Alliance are one up to them there at the end, but still plenty of points for them. It's 1 point the difference, right? 1 point the difference right now between Alliance and Aurora, 66 to 65. You know, Alliance, they put their number 2 draft pick for World's Edge, whereas Aurora, it was their number 48. But, I mean, this is sometimes where it's hard to know, right? Like, did the coach predict that no one was going to take Skyhook East? Because if that's the case, insane 5-head move, right? Because you've gone from Survey Camp, terrible POI, to Survey Camp plus Skyhook East, acceptable. You know, you're almost like moving your draft up a whole, draft pick up a whole rank there. So incredible work from Aurora to convert off that, and yeah, I guess they're so close together as well that it means that they will tend to end up playing similar positions in the late game.
That's true, actually. And just being able to get that early game loot when you play so split up, at least in that moment, in case you need to go for a quick rotate or help back up one of your teammates. Because honestly, GHS, they could have decided if they wanted to move over to Survey, if they needed that information, but instead, that game, we saw them opt to take the fight versus LG. They felt confident to not only take LG out of that fight, but take whatever they needed out of Climatizer for that beacon information.
Look, we got a great look at you know, their jerseys over the last couple of games with all the winning they've been doing, Vicky. But we're in the land of anime. What do you think? I know you're a big anime fan. What do you think about the anime jerseys that Aurora have on?
I think they look fantastic.
Yeah.
It gives me like One Piece manga panel vibes
Okay.
too. So I'm definitely with it here, and it kind of goes hand in hand with how animated they've been. Still feeling very confident. They still are the only team thus far. You see what I'm going? It also is the only team right now in the series that have been able to take 2 dubs for now, seeing how we're going to approach match number 6, but it also highlights how strong EU is within these groups.
It does, isn't it? And it was funny. I think we read some, you know, Reddit comments that were really talking down to EU in this LAN, but we are not seeing that play out right now. At least, certainly not in Group C versus Group D as they drop in for the final time here in our second series of the day.
Let's get it going here. Our final game within these groups. Group C versus D, and Alliance, only a 1-point difference that separates themselves and Aurora. I know Zephyr had to go and get a really sick jersey from the Alliance booth here, so he'll be very thrilled to see. And with no doubt too, right? He's always on top to support the Alliance squad, as he should, and we're going to be able to see the way that Alliance are going to be able to approach this zone too, because it is going to be moving over to the east side, but maybe not so north as we saw in that last zone.
Yeah, let's see where it pulls. Okay, it's central. We're going to get what looks to be a monument zone, and it's a little bit closer to both Alliance and Aurora this time. I mean, they did the hard slog over to Overlook last time. This will be even more favorable for them once they grab. I mean, look at this. Alliance, they get 2 Evo Harvesters on Skyhook. It's an incredible advantage being not having to essentially go outside your POI and be able to grab both of them. Aurora, they'll have pretty much the same, maybe even a third, right? Like they can go for the one in Skyhook. You've got the member up near the northern tunnels getting one, and then as they rotate down through the train tracks as well, there's another one to the west of Epicenter. And you know, where those spawn, we don't talk about it that much, but it can have huge ramifications if it means you hit a break point before someone else. If you've got, you know, the purple Gibby perk, or just having the armor, of course, to bully people out in fights.
Really helps them out depending on what option they want to go for. After seeing today, I do want to actually analyze what perk was more prioritized over the other and how it really benefits those play styles here. And seeing that Falcons, on this last game, a team that just hasn't been able to find a stride.
So hard for them so far. This time, as we said, of course, they're Lava Fissure, so we are watching them probably quite stressed right now, honestly, with 16 points in 16th place, make their way over. They did get Ring Console. That's at least one thing going their way. And I think the big difference between what we saw at their last LAN, Vicky, was that they took a while to find the team comp that they were comfortable on, right? And I think that was ultimately their downfall, in not having enough prac and not really having the team synergy to work through that at Mannheim. But now, coming into this LAN, you know, they really seem solid on Rampart. It's like they've done their homework. They've finally found something that fitted all 3 members. But look, it certainly hasn't played out in a happy fashion for them in this game so far. I mean, it really feels like the early game is where they've been falling down, right? Because they cannot find those great spots where they are so good at bullying other people out from. They're finding themselves in impossible positions, like that one we heard that great listen in from last game, where it becomes very, very tough for them.
It's really been like what you said at the very beginning and how these rotates have happened for them, but also the way that these zones have been pulling away and what squads are forced to deal with on their rotate.
Okay, now we're having a look at Stallions, one of those teams playing Loba, one of the only teams, right? This is the perfect situation. If you have to rotate very far with Loba, without both the Gibby and the Newcastle, you're kind of stuffed. But because they've done that, all of a sudden, every single team that runs in and leaves a death box behind is suddenly, they are the beneficiaries of that. So having a zone so close to home for Stallions, that's really, really good for them.
Especially if they're uncontested in that middle part of Monument playing off that low ground, you're going to be able to really work with a lot of loot there too. LG also looking to try to take some poking damage, and I did see in the feed, Falcons getting some knocks. Finally starting to see what they could work here as Hal's going to be able to reset, get the loot that they need on the outskirts of Monument, and having to do so quickly. It's Team Burger, one straggler that has been able to get away for now before other teams start rotating like Aurora or Alliance out of Countdown and Skyhook. And Falcons aren't the only ones, right? We have so many squads that have already quickly rotated into Monument, and then the teams taking their time, taking a fight over by Lava Siphon. Here we have Liquid Alienware. Griff still alive, going to be able to do the finishing blow onto Enter Force 36, the squad that took game number 1, now out in 19th in this lobby on the final game.
Yeah, Liquid, bit of the quiet achievers so far this game, moving up into the 3rd spot as we come into our final game.
Okay.
I feel like we haven't seen as much of them in game 4 and 5 at the very least. Okay, LG, another early fight from them. We can't have another early exit, and there we go. Finally something to hang their hats on. This is a very isolated fight over in Overlook, and LG hopefully can take this and maybe then make a more northern rotation and potentially pick up some other teams who are skirting the edges like Go Next.
Doesn't look like there's much information for them to work off of though over by Overlook. It looks like just a survey beacon here, and like you said, Genome isolated, so not worrying about any third parties in the vicinity. Most of the squads actually are within either the middle part of Monument or coming out of the west side of the zone.
You know, it's fascinating, you know, just talking about the information there, because of course they started in Climatizer where they did have the ring console, so they could have gapped it straight towards Monument had that been the option, but maybe the call from Sweet is, hasn't been a great series so far, guys. Hey, let's grab some KP. Let's play a little bit more edge here. That's how Climatizer was meant to be played, and that's, you know, sometimes we have that discussion about if you do get a home zone, but you're planning on playing edge, do you want to, you know, scrap the plan and say, no, let's just stay put, or do you just sort of continue on with it regardless?
And seeing what's at stake here too, when you're on the bottom end of the overall standings with a total of like 16 points, you got to see what you could do here aside from playing for positioning. They deleted that evac tower. Not too surprised, I mean, with the amount of Sheilas in the lobby, of course, G7's trying to make sure they don't get the full rotate.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's like if you pick up an evac tower, you basically have to pick up 2 or 3 because one is just not going to cut it. It will get shielded out. Someone will be looking at it. And I think even before, as we look, as the zone pulls even further towards both Fragment and Monument, who knows, is there a chance it goes over to Fragment here and we see another, we'll see a crazy dash across the lava? But yeah, because teams know that someone else is going to be shielding it, they'll even be willing to start firing some, you know, some scout shots and whatever else, because they're like, hey, we can help delete it even faster. So it's sort of this snowball effect of just having the shielders in the lobby versus these evac towers.
That's why we saw some teams opting for the Valkyrie, right? And it forces you to expend having the Gibby bubble sometimes, or just waiting for you to land and then use Gibby bubble, but not trying to rotate between both of the support legends, which is something that Furia has been doing. Seeing less Valkyries, though, as we had made that transition from Stormpoint into World's Edge is something I was expecting. But it's kind of the perks when you have that level 3 Valkyrie perk to see who's within these buildings. It helps you in a zone like this, but then where do you go when there is no real estate for you to take up?
So LG going all the way back over to Climatizer. They could be a bit of a rogue force in the fight we're looking at now, and after that evac tower went down, Aurora said, oh, I don't know, maybe let's go fight some people on the edge, right? And they've found Go Next. They've found Dreamfire, and potentially those teams are going to collapse on Go Next, who are the ones in the middle. You can see, just trying to block off a bit of sight with their catwalls right now, but they are getting routed.
Man, but with the catwall also used up to try to isolate, trying to take these fights. Dreamfire coming up from right behind, go next, and Aurora had tried to capitalize. You saw them ping earlier on, trying to get that engagement, and Dreamfire are actually backing away while Aurora are still trying to find go next in the zone.
Yeah, they're going deep for these kills. They want them, and they looks like they're probably going to grab the next two.
Oh, the Mirage not really working out here, though, with 9 Impulse falling down after trying to take a flanking angle, a different offset position to try to actually take advantage of go next. Have now costed them 9 Impulse.
Yeah, Dreamfire seem to have second thoughts about going in for this one over at Epi, but Team Burger, they're certainly not feeling like avoiding this one. They came out of the zone very late from Skyhook, but if someone wants to hand them a third party on the platter, well, like the Burger enjoyers they are, they'll take it.
Free for all out here. Looks like a buffet before they double dip out here too, with Go Next still playing on the north side of Survey. Aurora now down to just a solo. Was it worth it? That's also with them trying to use the Gibby ult to close in the gap. They were forced to use the dome because he had to heal up, and then taking that off position just did not work out.
That just got so ugly. You know, two teams now just limping around in the zone, maybe even going to take turns at trying to respawn their teammates at this replicator over at Survey Camp. Meanwhile, Dreamfire and Team Burger licking their lips, waiting for those teams to come out of the zone.
It's like what you said too, Genome. Go Next had double evacs. They had to utilize both of them just in case, and have now opted to hang out in the middle of Epi. Well, they're going to get comfy for now, at least away from the line of sight of Dreamfire, who were trying to circle keep them, and they see Aurora in the distance. Look at them as they move up. Dreamfire do not want Kazakh to be able to get this res. He'll be pulled off for right now, but he has to reposition.
Okay, so now they're going into the zone together. Go Next have successfully respawned. Can they turn this around on the other two? Well, Team Burger still smacking their lips at this point, and have taken over the train station spot. Could also be a little too spicy for these teams to handle as the zone ticks away at them. I hate the world, presumably. Yep, there we go. The med kit comes off.
And the fact that this zone has completely shifted to the south side of Frag East, something that has elevated LG on their rotate. The team that lands over by Climatizer, the team that took that fight over by Overlook, has now allowed themselves to rotate on the outskirts of Fragment and also take a mythic bin while they're at it.
I mean, I said it. I said if there's a chance it goes down there, and any team in that position will just instantly have God spots. So, and yeah, as you said, it's almost like, I don't know, above God spot. What do you call like God spot plus a mythic bin? I don't know where that ranks, but it's pretty damn high. All right, Alliance here. Obviously, Aurora struggling to make up the ground, even that 1 point between them here, as they are in a much better position than the other team in the zone. Aurora will have to come in, and Alliance, can they win this fight against Go Next?
Oh, gonna be able to get the double knock here, already having the advantage. Unlucky, just backing away to let the rest of Alliance clean up on aisle 3. Here the rest of the team has got it, and Go Next get taken out in 17. Another isolated fight just for now. Dreamfire were trying to stake it out, seeing maybe there was an opportunity, but the fight had already finished.
Yeah, I do have to wonder if Dreamfire really doubted themselves at this point, because you see opportunities like that, and they're very hesitant about it. They're not running at it and just, you know, sending the fight, thinking, hey, there's third-party opportunity. They are waiting. They're waiting way too long.
And second time they've done that too, right? Because they saw Aurora get the res, and now Aurora is trying to take this fight to Dreamfire. Can it act as a double-edged sword for Dreamfire after backing away from another fight? Aurora forced to back away too, with the ring closing in right behind their backs. You see the Mirage ult, a little bit of bamboozle coming through for Dreamfire as they still hold on to that high ground positioning before they have to eventually drop down. Ooh. Difficult here for Aurora, the team that I got in that back-to-back. They've been forced to use that Newcastle ult. But where can you go here from next?
I'm going to say this is actually the position I associate most with Dreamfire. In so many World's Edge games, they love playing from top epicenter and just looking down and using that height advantage against other teams. So they're extremely comfortable with the position they're in right now. The question is, Vicky, as the zone shifts even more south, it's going to be a very hard rotate for them. I mean, this is very reminiscent of where we saw Falcons from last game. Maybe not quite as hard, though. You've got a lot of hard cover, a lot of buildings in this space. Why it was so hard for all those teams rotating up from Ghost Town last time was because they had to run across open ground, essentially.
Little to no cover, right? Meanwhile, Adam could not clutch for Noctum. They get taken out. His team Liquid getting some KP, but they get thirded almost immediately. Look to your left. You may have missed them. The EVA 8 shots too, ringing through. And it's a lot of these teams that we were highlighting earlier on. A lot of space for these squads to actually take up. Over by Monument, once you saw that ring was pulling here.
Yeah, so still at this point, teams they're shuffling across to like the western northern side of Monument, but they still haven't shifted across to Fragment. I don't know if they've seen the change in the wind so far, or if it's just because they feel a little landlocked with everyone in the buildings around them. Can they even afford to make a move when everyone's going to have their sights trained on them? But if every squad thinks like that, then none of them will make it to the next zone. So at some point, someone has to start moving south, and it's Envy who gets there first.
Yeah, if everyone's super, then really no one is at this point when it comes to this positioning. And Alliance, in a distance, they see that LG have taken the streamer building, but it's still a very difficult position for Alliance because they are currently pinched between Falcons to their left, Dreamfire to their right. What move can you move into here with so many squads still in front of you? No one really looking at you before Falcons. They hear them right next to them. They're forced to engage here, but then Dreamfire could just third-party this from a distance.
Oh, that was a tough bubble to use there for Falcons as well, but, you know, Walty needed to pop the bat. If they can set up a fortified position here, they might be okay. Seems like a little risky with Lions underneath them. There's that zip line that will put them straight on their heads. If they hear any cracks, if they hear any knocks that they can associate with the team sitting on the platform above them, you know Alliance is going to bubble and set that.
Well, there's a fight happening right behind Falcons in that open building too. This may be the opportunity, but they can't see Alliance playing right underneath them out of their line of sight. Dreamfire, nowhere to go, nowhere to run. They get eliminated as LG are king of the hill on this rooftop, holding so much space too. 2 members on the roof here, another member to the south to make sure Envy doesn't just walk up for free on the bridge.
Wow, okay, so is this the big brain play from LG, or you know, have they spread themselves a little bit too thin here? I think as the zone pulls south now, they can probably, you know, make that distinction and start moving south to make sure none of them gets isolated and cut off from the rest. Alliance have made a risky cross across the lava, and they've lost unlucky for it. Potentially a reset in the works.
Left there because you could see the desperation trying to get that KP, seeing that they were literally one shot, maybe from the Master from miles away as Gaming Gladiators blast. Can he clutch this up? The 1v1 through the knockdown. He's playing up the other side here. He's forced to reload. No, on the other side in the distance. There you go. The shot from the G7 cleaning up both of these teams.
Okay, Burger, Supernova, and Falcons. A whole bunch of APAC players over here are getting locked into a scuffle on the northern side. LG still spread out, and Alliance have somehow managed to get the reset here. Envy haven't even looked at another team in quite some time. You can see them staring at Furia above them, but at some point we're going to get those 3 teams pulling into the final zone.
Alliance got away with moving here because they were playing off that low ground from the beginning when we saw them trying to engage on Falcons. Falcons still stayed up on top and now have been able to move up. This has allowed Alliance to get out of the line of sight of LG, and LG's respecting Falcons and they're moving through that building amazingly. As they should though, as they're going to be able to back away and still have circle advantage, playing by the edge, sharing some of that space with Fury who are on the other side. Let's jump into a listening with LG as they get to scout out the teams that are right ahead.
They're gonna have bubble again. Just rinse their Q. Everyone rinse their fucking Q instantly.
I'm gonna minigun it.
Yeah, just rinse their Q.
Front over here as well.
Sweet, get ready. They're gonna walk out any second.
Let me know.
45 on Newcastle.
Be bubbling. Crack. Yeah, they bub. I'm gonna give you ult this, okay? One second, I'm gonna give you ult tip. Let's kill these guys on this wall, okay?
Yeah,
kill
I'm playing
this.
with you.
I'm gonna give you ult in a second.
They're sliding close.
Fight this. They're in my give you ult. They're in
Slide
my floor.
down,
Fight them on the floor. Fight them.
Yeah.
Psych now. Fight with me. Fuck, they're in my bubble.
No,
I'm
I'm
minigun it. I'm minigun it. No, I got minigun.
Bro, go right. I can pull him. I'm pulling him sights.
Kill sights. Get walls out if you have them.
No, bro.
Come on.
No, bro, I can't armor swap. Play alive. The team on the bridges. Sykes, you might put a res me later.
They're resing there.
Oh, you can swap that, nice. Bro.
Maybe just shell. Maybe just like delay.
Citizens have gone in to try to grief LG as they were forced to engage on Falcons. You saw that Falcons were able to move up. Z-o-o-m got the initial knock. Now Envy playing off the low ground. Alliance get eliminated. 4 squads left in this final game for our Group C versus D. And Envy have been incredibly quiet, now trying to shine as they execute here Furia from this lobby.
And LG gone as well. So it's actually a final 3v3 with Envy and Team Falcons. 1 game left. They had to redeem themselves. They've just crested the 30-point mark. Now remember, you need that roughly 33 points a series, and it looks like Team Falcons might be able to bring it back in the last game of CVD.
Listen, better late than never, I always say here, and Falcons have finally started building things up, but they will be at a disadvantage with full purples versus the full reds.
Yeah, the fact that Envy is closer on the crates allows them to work with that cover a lot better. A well-timed bubble from Z-o-o-m, though, means they pull back and just wait it out for a second. Gibby, bubbles raining down. The re-slam from Falcons comes in.
The second knock right here, too. The second you guys always what does it in Envy. Just walk up for free. The PK shot is able to take out Team Falcons as Envy take the dub.
Oof, that was a close one there. I mean, yeah, look, they didn't have a lot to work with Falcons. They just had the lip of the highway, and they got a little bit closer. I thought with the re-slam, I mean, that is a big factor in fights. It's interesting seeing how these fights have evolved, and I've got to say, Catalyst, we know how powerful she is in those bubble fights, and I think that's a big reason why in the end there, Envy can come out on top. It allows them to control the pace of bubble fights a lot more effectively. Having the spikes, setting them up in your own bubbles means that the other team, they essentially cannot dictate the pace.
I also felt like there was just a lot of respect being given from Falcons, and I like what you said about the crates in the middle of the tracks, because that provided some extra makeshift cover for Envy to take 2 different angles, right? You could take a left angle if you want to, a right angle after you even see the double slam, because you can still wrap around and focus this team to look in 2 different directions.
Yep, 100%. Envy there, you can see though, do pick up the majority of the points, of course, with the first place and 12 KP on top of that. That means 24 will roll into a better result for them in the overall series result. Actually moves them up to the 5th spot there with 41, but it's Alliance coming out with a 76-point series. Fantastic from our EU Gladiators.
I mean, what, like 6 KP in that last game alone? And being in a very difficult position nonetheless too, right? We saw all the action from the squads that had to come from the north side of Monument into line of sight of LG holding out a lot of teams before seeing that Alliance was forced to have to fight Envy, who was on the other side of the tracks, which Envy had made that rotate, by the way, from Thermal Station before settling down on those tracks very early in the game, not overcommitting into finding a building in Monument, just in case it did end up moving down to the south, like you mentioned, because it was a pretty high possibility too.
Because they were the only team, right, that took up that position down south for a very, very long time. LG almost made it work, but as you said, just in that last maybe 5 or so teams, they make a misstep and go from being absolutely gifted that final zone and the mythic bin to falling a little bit too early. That, of course, means they end up in 15.
It was very scary to see Z-o-o-m bust down that door with the massive, as Gibby was almost like a horror movie all over again when he was able to get that knock initially there too for Falcons to not only get that KP, but to at least claim that building before the inevitable happened and that final fight between Envy was to commence on top of that trading tracks. But also, the slight high ground that Envy still had still allowed them to start the initial damage first.
Yeah. It was a great spot to play from, and yeah, look, they played it well. The Catalyst, obviously, is just such a strong, legend in those final moments.
Because you also have the spikes, right? When you play the spike or place the spikes outside of the dome, it prevents you from having to work around that space and work in a different direction. You could force certain players to back away into your teammates' line of sight, which is why it was really important to play into that natural terrain. You have Evo shield advantage because you're still full red. Even if they had purples in that case, they still took initial damage trying to even get into positioning. And then waiting for that Newcastle slam, usually is the play, right? Because then you force them back, you destroy their Newcastle wall, but it's difficult when you still have to look to your back. Also, the respect that Falcons were forced to show there once they saw that they were at a disadvantage is what led Envy to start pressing their own advantage state.
Very well done. Envy, you know, they were my pick, and I really was hoping they'd pick up some points towards the end. Thank God they finish off with a 24-point banger there. Now we're going to put all 40 teams together now that they've played a series each, and we're going to see that it's Alliance who stand above all of them with 76 points. Aurora actually matching Fnatic with 65 each.
That's actually incredible to see the difference between both lobbies, between groups A and B, C and D, and seeing it all matched up together. Furia right behind Aurora with 53 points, 100 Thieves with 51 after we got to see that dub there too within that first series. But it's nice to be able to see where Alliance stands across the back, a team that has consistently been on top when it comes to having the experience that they do on lands.
Okay, let's have a look at the bottom 20 teams here. Still see some of them in there. I mean, the fact that we said, you know, it's usually 33 points maybe that you need, and we've got Reignite sitting at 35 in 21st place. So that says that there's a few teams down the bottom who have not soaked up many points at all, and obviously some on the top who are doing more than their fair share. Of course, having a scan around some of the teams that we wouldn't expect to be down here. Dreamfire on 7 points so far, definitely not them. Falcons on 30, you know, that was rescued by essentially one game. And I think even Complexity on 26, they've said this is their meta and they need to be picking up the pace a little bit if they want to earn and keep that moniker.
Yeah, honestly, settling themselves into final zone positioning when they were trying to at least isolate some squads from afar with the tri-rifle that we've seen before. I like the approach. Some of these teams have been trying to mix things up, but it's been amazing to see all of our groups perform thus far. I want to hear more from the analyst desk. Guys, take it away.
Great job, Vicky and Genome. Thanks so much for wrapping up that series for us. So let's chat about it a little bit. Okay, Alliance at the top, and we saw by just how big of a margin when we lined up all 40 of our teams after getting through both of those series and now getting a better lay of the land, if you will. Now, we talk about Alliance a lot. Always a squad where when we see them in these group stages, they are dominant. So are we going to get an even stronger Alliance this time around once we get past the group stages here? Eric, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, Alliance have beat the group stage allegations of being a group stage team. They have gotten second and third, the last real two big lands. Like, they are just the most dominant team. They almost got enough points in this one round to make it through group stages. And honestly, I mean, I don't see any way for them to slow down leading into these next stages. I mean, they look like the best team so far. EU domination, let's make it that.
Well, I mean, I was going to say not only Alliance, but we looked at that leaderboard yet again. We saw Fnatic up there after their really strong performance, but they were tied with Aurora, who had those back-to-back wins, and more EMEA here, Zephyr.
I was about to say, up until that last game, I know we praise Alliance, but it was a neck-and-neck race going into that final moment. For the likes of Aurora there, it was one simple mistake getting caught out that sent them to the depths, but the truth is, it was anybody's potential to come out, maybe even Aurora, in that first place position, because for 2 wins in a row, they're setting statistics for the EMEA region that go beyond even Alliance potential.
Well, we'll take a look at some of Alliance's stats here because they are impressive, to say the least. I mean, after getting themselves through this series, putting themselves at the top of the overall leaderboard, I want to see what we've got for their wins, for their performance here so far, and we'll get that up as soon as that is ready. But before we get to continue on talking about them, I think we also will get a chance to talk with Alliance. We're just going to get Hackis on up here on the desk to come chat with us about what we just got to see throughout these 6 games. Obviously, a lot of our talent, if you guys have been paying attention to our talent predictions, picked Alliance to be a team that was going to do well. I know Eric feels good about that choice. Hackis, welcome to the desk. Thank you for joining us. How are you feeling right now?
Tired. Like, the whole team is sick right now, so we're running on fumes. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say it then. If you guys are playing like this when you're sick and you're tired, everybody else in the lobby better watch out, because that was a stellar performance. I know it's obviously very early, day 1 here so far in the week, but in general, how are you guys feeling about the level of competition here at Champs and what you think you can bring to the table?
I mean, competition at LAN is always interesting. Like, obviously there's a lot of great teams, but in this meta specifically, the late games are kind of RNG because it's like everything is so close quarter and it just depends on who sends who. So it's like we've been consistently top 5 every single game, but then in the top 5 after that, it's like very hard to actually close it out.
In this specific series, tell me what went right for you guys. Like, what was working for you as a team, specifically in this group matchup?
I think we just had a great macro in general. Like, we always got into the top 5 and we just picked KP where we could find them. Like, we didn't really do too much. We didn't stress anything. We literally just played slow and steady and picked up points where we got them.
Zephyr, you have anything that you want to ask here?
Absolutely. I, more than anything, want to know how y'all are focusing on converting this momentum from group stage, which you all have completely dominated several times in the past, to something like where we may be seeing you in finals.
I mean, with the new POI draft, like, group stages, obviously, if you get a good group stage, you can snowball it quite hard with the draft into going into finals. So hopefully we can capitalize on the momentum by getting good POIs, and we'll go from there.
Well, I want to, while we have you up here, I want to use you for a little bit because we're going to take a look back at your Match 5 performance here. We're going to get into these final circle moments as the IGL. Talk us through the decision-making that went into these pushes.
I mean, we scanned zone 3, saw the zone pull back a little bit. We were completely free on high ground. We had one team that was low ground bridge. They ended up trying to wrap us, but we won the 3v3, and then we had the entire side for free. So after that, we were just kind of looking down on everyone. And then people around us just fought, so we just kind of 3P'd. We didn't really have to do much other than 3P.
See, you make it sound so easy, but I wish you could have heard us in the green room. Everyone was screaming as you guys were just steamrolling through everyone. Eric, you were one of those people. Tell me your perspective on this.
I think it was game 4 that I was screaming where you guys were on top of the hill on Storm Point and you guys won like back-to-back-to-back fights and almost like, one of you were down, almost won the final fight. I think it was against Aurora for their second back-to-back, and that was honestly just so fun to watch. It's amazing to see the one side from Aurora who is heavy zone, and then you guys who just kind of force your way in and find the openings and then kind of just make your way into the end zone.
And these are some of these numbers that we were getting, I was alluding to earlier as we get a chance to take a look at these. I mean, 21 points, 19 points, 13 points. Like, we've seen teams struggle to get that across multiple games, and you guys are now getting them in a single match here. So we're just here to gas you up, essentially, because I know it's, like I said, we keep saying it's early, but this is a great start for y'all. And now, you know, one more series left on the day. Give me your impression on the entire lobby of 40 teams that are here at Champs this year.
I mean, I feel like people are still getting used to the meta. Like, we haven't really gotten to practice the meta completely yet.
Yeah.
It's still brand new, and I think people are using group stages to kind of like figure out how to play the game. So, I mean, we'll see if people learn fast enough for finals, but
I kind of want to piggyback off that a little bit.
Sure, absolutely.
When it comes to picking metas, obviously controller players aren't very versatile when it comes to a lot of the support legends. You know, you don't see many controller Gibraltars, Newcastles, things like that. It's a bit different. When it came to picking like the kind of roles, was there any bit of like a concern with just the meta for having two kind of slay heavy players to fit in with you, or did it kind of all just kind of fill together and feel great right away?
I mean, that's kind of why we're playing Cat over Rampart, because I think that fits us much more as players. Like, we have Effect who's very aggressive, can be aggressive on Cat, and then when unlucky, you can follow him up as Newcastle. So I think for us that fits perfectly. But yeah, that's kind of why the reason why we opt to not play Rampart, at least, because that would just put our controller players a little bit too passive.
Yeah, I think that's how it should be. I mean, we've seen Aurora doing well with the Mirage. We've seen the VP doing well with the Catalyst. I think it's a similar reason why they're doing that, and I think it really comes down to comfort. You don't want to force characters into a meta that you're not comfortable with or still learning. I would prefer the comfort picks on characters that everyone's good with, and it seems to be working for you and other specific teams.
Yeah.
Well, Hackes, thank you so much for jumping on here and chatting. I don't want to keep you too long. I want to let you get some rest and recovery here. Congratulations, though, on this last series. It was a phenomenal performance, and you guys crushed it coming out there on top. We'll take a look back at our series results so everybody at home can get a refresher here for our all 40 teams, our entire overall standings. And like we've mentioned now, Alliance at the top, 76 points, drops down not that far to 65 for both Fnatic and Aurora. Things still stay close, so you've got Furia up there, which I kind of felt like they had a very quiet persistence in that series, keeping themselves up there and now at the top. 100 Thieves with the 2 wins. I mean, we've had such strong performances all day here, Zephyr.
Absolutely, and for the majority that kind of led the pack here before getting into this LAN, most have managed to show up, but there are still some figures that we are looking for potential resurgences. I look towards those Cloud9s, even the Disguise, but most importantly, of course, Team Falcons, who at least in this first iteration here, show that they've got a long way to go.
Now, Jamerson, we've got you back up here on the desk with us. You got a chance to listen to Hackus, but also just kind of see all these numbers laid out before us. We've gotten through all of our groups now and 2 series worth of play. So give me your thoughts on the day so far.
Yeah, I mean, so far in particular, especially with this last series, taking a look at what Alliance were able to accomplish is they were able to play their usual gameplay, right? If you look at the points breakdown, 39 KP, 37 placement points, very even. That is what they are consistently doing, whether it's the regular split or in a lot of our LAN environments. What I want to point out, though, is Aurora, 22 kill points to the 43 placement points. That's an almost 1-to-2 ratio. That is almost unheard of. Even when you're playing extremely conservatively, center zone, or you're getting gifted zones or gifted rings, it's still very much close to a 1-to-1 ratio, but a 1-to-2 ratio in that regard is absolutely insane. Aurora were doing great jobs on their positioning. That does indicate they were playing a little bit more reserved in that regard because they weren't going hunting for every KP. And of course, in this meta with how many opportunities you have to reset, you're not going to be able to find those same KP possibilities.
I mean, so many things that everybody has to kind of pay attention to, and as well as playstyle adjustment from groups heading then into the bracket stage, because things will change as people find out who they're going to be facing off against, how that POI draft goes, what they have to change based off of those draft options that they end up with. Zephyr, talk me through thoughts so far.
Personally, I really like what Hockey's brought up about the fact that once you get into that top 5, while it can be a bit of a confusing, at least scene to navigate here, that's the ultimate goal. We have to remember that's where the lion's share of the majority of these points exist, not only in those placements, but the remaining teams that you are able to pick up. Bringing POI draft into it as well, as long as you're shooting for the top there, you will be very confident into not only drafting for these bracket stages, but getting ahead of the pack where it starts to snowball. It's not just good groups, right? Better POIs and brackets sets you up for an excellent start to your finals as well.
I want to get your final thoughts on this series, both series so far, Eric, but I also want to hear how you feel like E-District has impacted the play that we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, E-District has just kind of changed the gameplay at all. I think that is part of the reason why we have such a defensive meta, is like partially because of the map. Being able to take the space that you're able to take, especially on a map like E-District where there's so much like open area, there's buildings, there's the ability to live and have endgames with, 15 plus teams on that map is much higher in my opinion, due to everything that's around it, the ability to hold these spaces. But overall, I mean, I was looking at the scores from the first 2 matches, and if the points stay consistent, we're a third of the way done essentially.
Yeah.
That means that 21st place had 35 points. We're looking at almost 115 points as the cutoff. That's insane. That is by far the highest that we've ever seen. So if we're staying consistent there, these teams on the bottom half, a lot of North American teams who have been known to struggle early on and then pick it up later, might need to think about that a little quicker.
Yeah, they might be struggling in that first round of our elimination bracket, but we're not even close to that yet. We still have so much more Apex Legends action in store, and we still have more to go today. You thought we'd be done after 2 series. We're not. We still have 1 more left to go. So let's take a look at our schedule for a quick refresh on what exactly is still coming up around the corner. Now that we've gotten through each of our individual groups, it's time to start that round robin that Rain had mentioned at the beginning of the day. We've got groups B and D facing off, and I know you see on there it says 5:30. It's going to be 6 p.m. Japanese Standard Time. We need a little bit of time to get our players off reset and the new groups back up on stage where they need to go, but that is right around the corner. And if you missed any of our action so far here today, or you want to keep up with everything that we've got coming up throughout the rest of the week, follow us on social media. It's /PlayApex for Twitch or @PlayApex Esports on both YouTube and X. And then you won't miss a single second of any of the action that we have going on in store. And when we tell you it's only going to get better from here, we are not exaggerating. It's only the first day and already things have been shaken up. But like we said, it's time for a short break so we can get everybody reset before we get into our 3rd and final series of day 1 of our groups stage. So don't go anywhere. More ALGS Champs action when we return.
Sony In Zone, the official monitor of the Apex Legends Global Series.